basically, it's been around 2 months since I am here at Stanford. I am here on my Fulbright fellowship for pursuing my postdoctoral at Gendered Innovation Lab, which is, in fact, as you all, as Mr. Srikumar said, it is a very different word. Probably most of us are hearing for the first time, but this Gendered Innovation Lab is already existing here in Stanford for past 10 years. It's been a decade, and primarily the lab works on understanding the importance or the relevance or trying to fix the gender sex intersectionality aspects in research and innovation. Okay, so my work primarily is not exactly connected on research and innovation. Mine is more on social equity. I mean, I've actually broadened the concept of gender sex intersectionality to social equity and sustainability, and I'm going to implement these frameworks, the frameworks which is already developed in this lab in startup ecosystems. Why? Because I am a startup entrepreneur. I've been into entrepreneurship for the past many years, and that's how I came across, or rather I was passionate about working in this domain, and I approached the Stanford University, this particular lab, specifically this lab, for taking me as a research scholar. I'm not a full-time academician, so I cannot talk about Indian universities or anything like that. All I can talk about probably is what I have learned a little bit about what the university education, how foreign universities function. Of course, many of the things probably will be discussed or have been covered already. And still, I just thought, I just structured it around a few points. Let me start off with the admission. Admission, as you all know, is very stringent. It has a lot of layers of policies. I mean, primarily the admission is based on the student's aspiration as well as the student's interest as well as the aptitude towards the subject that he or she is going to work on, because that is the first criteria what they look at. So in my case, I will try to connect it or relate it to what I have gone through so that it is more easier to understand. So in my case, you might be wondering, someone sitting in Kochi, with no background of any foreign education, nothing like that. When I wrote an email to the professor, Londa Shibinger at Gendered Innovation Lab, the first email, I introduced myself thoroughly and all the works I have done in the field of startup entrepreneurship, as well as this is the kind of work that I want to work with you. And these are all my interest in gender and related works. So I was able to thoroughly convince her over an email, sitting there in Kochi, to this professor. Probably that was the beginning of the journey, which led me to sit here and talk to you today. So it's very stringent. That is number one. Quality versus quantity. They actually review each of your proposal. They'll go through each of your documents thoroughly and see that you are the right fit candidate for being taken into the university. This is something that's very important. But of course, all foreign universities, US universities, has their own mandates of local students and a certain number of foreign students. So that is why foreign students getting admission into US university is little more tough, because there's only a very small percentage that is allowed for foreign students to be part of that. Well planned and structured admission process. I'm not telling that Indian admission process is not structured. Of course, there is a lot of but there is a lot of scope of improvement. That's what I would like to say. Research positions, as I said, faculty decides. The faculty is the main person who decides, okay, who she or he wants to take as her fellow or as her scholar. So, I mean, there is no other influence than, I would say, your pure merit as well as your interest to work in that particular domain. So that's the first step, admission. Now let's look at academics. There are different aspects to it. It works on 4 quarters. We are starting off with the spring quarter now, spring, fall, winter, and summer. So for each quarters, there is certain number of credits as well as grades that has to be obtained. And unless you complete and finish off those credits and grades, you cannot, obtain your master's degree or your graduation at a later stage. So that is, that's something which everybody strives to get their grades on. Flexibility to choose any subject. So once you are enrolled as a graduate student over here, you can actually sit through any classes, provided there are certain mandatory classes which you have to sit, but you are free to. For example, if I am an engineering student, I can well and good go and sit in an arts course and complete that course. It's called audit courses, and that actually helps a lot in personality development of the student. I know right now when I am a postdoc here, I am going to actually audit a course in film because it's something which I am interested in. So it will help me and to get an overall wholesome personality development, and not just limited to the subject which we are working on, right? So that is a very interesting aspect which I find in US universities compared to the Indian universities, which does not offer that. I mean, I'm not telling every university is not doing that, but definitely if we can allow this kind of arts and science, and I mean every engineer, according to me, should do an arts course. That's my belief, because without arts, without only learning science doesn't make a wholesome human being. So we have to actually help, the universities have to help or nurture a person into a wholesome human being, and not just engineers or mathematicians or physicians or anything like that. So that's something we should be probably considering. Focus on individual interests and potentials. Now this is something again very interesting over here. Like every person, every individual is unique, and every individual, there is no mass production or mass teaching. Every person can choose their own subject. So sometimes when you are graduating, your papers, your subjects will be very, very different, and that makes you unique as a person. And when you go out into the employment market, you are able to provide a value addition which is very different from another person sitting next to you who is applying for the same job. Whereas in our country, we are like producing bulk graduates, and again, they are all unemployable. That's another aspect. And what happens is when they go to an employer, it's all 100 resumes of similar categories. Whereas here, every individual has a very, very, very single, unique resumes, and they are able to convince that to the employers. Project work and thesis is very important. This actually, provides the student an opportunity to learn and work while they are learning. Every student, in fact, this is one more aspect which I have not mentioned here. Most of the university works, for example, managing the library, managing the museum, managing the canteen, everything is done by students over here. In fact, they are hired as a employee. They are paid the normal hourly rate of $18, $20 or whatever, and they work on this thing. In fact, every faculty also has graduate student assistants who are also hired for a particular time, and they are also paid on hourly basis, 2 hours in a day, 3 hours in a day, and they work on helping setting up the course and assisting the faculty adjusting. So it's all graduate students who run many of the activities, and this is a very, very important way to improve or enhance their employability. That's something which I have found to be quite successful over here. They learn hands-on. Coming to classroom, of course, the lectures are only 20 to 30%. It's purely teamwork in every class, for example, and the coursework and everything is presented much earlier before the spring, before the quarter begins. And during that, when you want to join for a course, you just you have to go and sign up. Everything is technology based. We have application, the system software and everything. You have to go and sign up and wait in queue if the professor wants to take you as a student for that particular class. So waiting list is normal over here, and only 30 students are admitted for each courses in many cases. Sometimes it will be 20 students, 40 students. So they set the numbers. So if you are so keen about pursuing a particular course, then you have to go and apply much earlier. So the persons who are sitting, the candidates, the students who are sitting in a classroom are 100% involved, as well as they are very, very, very keen to learn a subject. I'm talking not about the what do you call post-graduation or postdoc or anything like that. I'm talking about even the graduate students. The students who are sitting in a classroom are really, they want to learn that subject, and they don't go to class which they are not interested at all. So there are some classrooms where there will be only 2 students sitting, yet the faculty will be coming and taking class because those 2 students are highly interested to take that class. And as I said, it's all based on case activities, case studies, teamwork, and every activity and everything is given much well in advance. Even for the quarter, what are the thesis that has to be completed, everything is given in advance. The students take the ownership of learning and they pursue it. Technology is integrated, I would say. Most of the classrooms have, I'm not, unlike India, we don't have the, all the smart classrooms and, all the big things. But the way you submit assignments, the way you interact with the faculty, the forums, the discussion forums, everything is technology integrated and students are used to it. Even gamified platforms are there. Coming to research, this is another major area that any university should be focused on. Of course, we all know that Stanford is a place where there are advanced researchers happening. And why advanced? I would say if you look at the core reason why they are going advanced is because most of the areas are, for example, the topic, the Gender Innovation Lab for India, or maybe for someone in India, it looks very, very new and totally new. But this has been there already 10 years over here, because this is a very important topic which is being discussed in the academic area, especially in Stanford. And as far as I know, only there are a couple of universities which are working on gender innovation. However, as I said, every faculty member, every researcher, every professor has her own research agendas, and she sticks on to it for that period. And another interesting thing is about the faculty research is they're highly interdisciplinary. For example, gender innovation in science and technology, which my guide is an expert. If you look at her background, she is a professor of history, PhD from Harvard, and she has been a history department professor for a long time. But if you talk to her about technology and the robotics and all kinds of science and R&D innovation and biotechnology, she'll be able to talk to you coolly, because that's the kind of interdisciplinary approach, because the interdisciplinary approach has helped evolve this particular study called gender innovation. If that was not there, probably the study itself would not have come out. So what I'm trying to convey is that in our country, one of the major lacking areas which I find in academicians is that very too narrow focus on a particular subject and sticking on to that, rather than trying to understand different fields and bringing together the best out of, trying to come out with a new field itself is something what I find very interesting over here. Innovative studies. I've been fortunate to attend as a participant in the Graduate School of Business Behavioral Lab. There is a interesting behavioral lab over here where experiments are conducted on human participants on various behavioral, consumer behavior and such things. And I've been a participant there, and I was really fascinated at the kind of questions and the questionnaires or the research works that happen. So unlike in India, where all the PhD works have a mandate that a minimum 500 samples should be there, and it should be a quantitative survey among random sample. No, that's not the kind of work which happen over here. Most of the studies are highly, innovative. There may be only 10 participants in a study, but that 10 participants, they will be going in depth and coming out with a solid research outcome out of that study. Quality over quantity, that's what I mentioned right now. Translational research. Now, I don't know whether we have any system in Indian universities for this, but this is something which is already, there is an exclusive department which is functioning in Stanford University for translational research, which means most of the research works which are conducted by academicians, by professors, they are they can be converted into policy implications, okay? Because we have experts and researchers in, many, even in government level policy making can be done. And they do social researchers and other kind of science and research. But how can this be converted and implemented at policy level in a nation as well as state, as well as in probably in educational institutions?
Your presentation is really good. Could you just conclude now? We'll have this discussion after.
My slide is over. This is my last slide. Yeah. So I just wanted to give that framework. That's why I touched upon all points. I didn't want to miss any points. Yeah. So translation research is something which, there is a specific department which is handling this, and it helps all the professors to convert their research works into a policy as well as into an entrepreneurship idea. Faculty entrepreneurship and consulting. This is something I would say which differs drastically in India as versus foreign universities. most of the professors over here run their own consulting or an entrepreneurship. They are advisors in startups and other things, compared to Indian universities where only academic and publication is what taken care. Culture, communication, I'll just quickly run through this. Gender and social equity in all arenas taken care. Process makes things easier. Using technology to automate and life easier. Friendly and admission desk to any location. That is then recognizing merit and have process to acknowledge even the smallest achievements of the people there. PR, newsletters, and various modes of communication. So these are all current things which I just wanted to highlight. We hear about Stanford and Harvard dropouts becoming or starting their own startup, but we don't hear about unemployable graduates from any of this. So, but in India, we still keep on hearing this. And another aspect is about research. They not just publish in Nature or Science journals, but as billion-dollar startups. So these are two areas which I think probably some of the areas which I think improvement possible. Of course, efficient systems and timely education. Time is very important. Technology, everything is structured. March 28th class starts means starts. That's it. Technology integration, student capability-based learning, exposure to multicultural and academic discussions, research-oriented culture, student-led learning. There is nothing like spoon feeding. Campus politics. Now, I will have to, in India, of course, this is one of the major issues, I would say, which is preventing most of the research and academic works. That's what I feel, but I know many people still believe campus politics helps. So with that, I'll conclude. Thank you once again.